Hello, you are listening to Episode 3, Mushrooms and Memories. Kindergarten, Grade 1, Grade 2, 3, and so on, chapters filled, closed, and added to my life story. These chapters formed themselves throughout each year, each lesson shaping the whole. Every day, year, and minute added to the mounting depth of the story. When a chapter's time was over, it settled quietly into place, there when needed, guiding me like a partially filled-in map. I began filling my next chapter in the halls of our intermediate school, not realizing some painful lessons were waiting. Here my ship would hit rocky waters and rough shores, but I would remain captain, and any negativity that came my way, I'd throw it overboard. This girl was growing, and all my inner ages seemed to agree that unwavering optimism, positive vibes, and sparkles would be the magic steering our ship. That year, I would experience my first mutiny, and although there were many moments that nudged my growth as captain, the following 2 lessons would test my resilience and mark their place as a core arc. So what happened that year? What lesson could mark a 4th grader? Follow me down memory lane for a show and tell long overdue. The tiny 4th grade pirate inside would describe this as the chapter where she dealt with scurvy and lost her main battle buddy, not by disease or lost, but by an abandoned post. What she meant was that her foundation of health and friendship, once thought permanent, would be questioned and quietly rewritten. All right, to the memory, let's go. Like most young kids, I had bonded with another little soul, trying to navigate her own way. We teamed up. We both loved the color green in Dr. Pepper, destiny. We carried our sacred bond through 1st grade, then 2nd and 3rd. With that kind of history, we were ready for anything 4th grade had to throw at us. Math was getting harder, teachers were growing impatient, classes split, no longer hosting the familiar faces that had filled the background of so many days. Storms were brewing. This world was new, but not without assistance. There were plenty of 5th graders on the playground spilling information to any newbie who would listen. And they had revealed that one test would determine what class you were placed in. They also confirmed which teachers were mean, nice, boring, and so on. Since the head of the lower math class had glowing reviews, I simply and falsely failed my math test. That year, I would have the best experience of my intermediate life. That class was fun, the teacher was great, and though I stayed behind in math until 8th grade because of it, I have no regrets. That class became the highlight of my year. In contrast, our music teacher was 2-star, playground rating, do not recommend. But this class wasn't recorded in my chapter because of her. It marked the first time a piece of my story would be rewritten. And what exactly did it rewrite? Well, health isn't stable. And bodies, well, they can surprise you. So what were the first signs? It started with spirals, colors, and flickers. Sounds nice, right? You might be thinking, daydreaming, passing the time, pretty spirals, but you'd be wrong. My first episode happened in that class. The flickers caught my attention. They gathered into one large trembling circle and I couldn't see past them. So I paused. This wasn't daydreaming. So what was this? I tried wishing it away. Wishing didn't work. Next, my heart began thumping hard against my chest, pounding from the inside. This was fear. I learned something else that day. People could read my face. Not only was my body behaving strangely, my face was revealing it, against my wishes. My thoughts weren't asking to be heard, but a classmate kept insisting, "What's wrong?" But how do you explain something you don't understand yourself? I knew one thing was certain. An unexplained experience was the fastest route to a doctor's appointment, and that felt like reason enough to say nothing. I told myself it would probably never happen again. With the confidence borrowed from previous chapters, the voice inside me whispered, "Ignore it." So that's what I did. Recess would come soon. In no time, I'd be on the field with my best friend and co-pirate, kicking soccer balls and leaving everything strange behind. The bell rang, releasing me not only from class but from my own mind, and the field felt wonderful. The grass felt soft, the apple orchards were beautiful. This was freedom. I kicked the ball a few times, warming it up for my buddy, but my friend never came. The ball rolled to a stop. My arm lifted so I could read the word on my bracelet. Friend. The first medal I had ever been awarded. Proof that we had chosen each other. I left the ball in the field and went searching for her. My eyes followed the girls she'd been spending time with, and there in the middle of them, she stood laughing, as though our routine had never existed. Maybe she forgot. Maybe this was just 4th grade, new groups form, friendships shift, so I decided I would follow. I could adjust. Standing among a new pack felt strange. Was this right? And if so, why didn't it feel right? Nothing in my earlier chapters had prepared me for this. It sat there, a large unanswered question. As seconds stretched into minutes, the group drifted away, and then I was alone. For the first time, I wished I could disappear. But I wasn't invisible, and I had no magic powers, so I fought my way through the zigzag of kids and noise towards the swings, where solitude felt safer. Days turned into weeks. My bracelet stared back at me, quietly suggesting its removal. We no longer sat together on the bus. She wouldn't return my calls. And then one day, it settled in. We were no longer friends. Before removing the honorary friendship medal, I made one final attempt. Our bus was nearly at school. I would just ask her. After all, she had never actually said we weren't friends. We walked into the school. I lifted my hand and tapped her shoulder. She turned, but it wasn't the girl I remembered. She was angry. All I could ask was, "Are we still friends?" She began yelling, her head bobbing, finger pointing, but I couldn't hear her. My ears had shut down. Everything went silent. Bodies are remarkable like that. Built to protect, to adapt. Her mouth stopped moving and she turned and walked away. The moment ended. I never received a reason we stopped being friends. Or maybe I simply lost it in the silence. But when it was over, something settled gently into place. Rejection leaves a mark. And somehow you keep going. I could hear again, and although my bracelet still circled my wrist, I knew this other half of the story belonged in the trash. The moment ended, but not its echo. Suddenly, my inner voice began sounding unfamiliar. Remember that mutiny? All the ages, grades, and versions of me murmured, "We are annoying." No, I'm nice. Something is wrong with us. Well, maybe, but I try my best. The voices came so quickly I couldn't quiet them, so I let them speak. Eventually, I gave them what they wanted, and I cried. At home, of course, while I threw away my bracelet. But don't worry, I made it through that year. I learned to navigate rejection, shifting friendships, grief, and acceptance. I learned that the spirals would remain a part of my life. Visitors arriving at the most inconvenient times. You may be wondering how this chapter earned the name Mushrooms and Memories. Because life is a little like mushrooms. Resilient, persistent, growing in light or beneath forest debris, appearing where conditions allow, not where preference dictates. In life, we don't always choose where we stand or what we face. We simply bear witness, quietly watching, adjusting, growing among whatever surrounds us, harsh or beautiful. We keep moving, keep learning, keep recording. And what does all this become? Not merely adulthood, but compassion, understanding, and eventually, love. Love born from living. Love that sustains us. Every now and again, I revisit this chapter when rejection finds me, reminding myself it has always been part of the story. Somewhere out there, I think of my old friend too, grown, navigating her own chapters, trying her best. And inside me still lives that 4th grade pirate, quietly hoping that her old buddy's living an extraordinary life. I didn't understand it then. I only sensed that things I had never questioned were no longer behaving as they once did. My vision blurred and my friendship faded, and somewhere inside me, a young girl began adjusting to a truth she could not yet name. The stability is not something we're promised, but something we learn to live without. And that's it. Signing off, your 4th grade pirate. And this concludes episode 3, Mushrooms and Memories. If you enjoyed that, there are more stories from the same series called My Plants and Me, Botanical Lessons from My Life. You can find more of them on my Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok. Thanks for listening.